Hello and welcome to Weather on the Go, all your weather coverage. Good Tuesday afternoon, everybody, and we got a lot to get to here in this video, so I want to jump right into it. We got the snowfall here across the Northeast. I'm going to also be looking ahead at some severe weather potential as we head through this week. Also, another bigger chance for severe weather as we head toward late week into the weekend, and then kind of looking beyond that here with some here longer range forecast here as well as we head toward early May. So good Tuesday afternoon, everybody, and I hope everybody's having a great day. This is the National Weather Service's hazard alert map, and you can see a lot of red flag warnings across the Four Corners region here, from Colorado down into much of New Mexico, Arizona, southern Nevada, and getting up here into the Central Plains and Western Plains off the lee side of the Rockies. A lot of wildfire concerns continue across those areas with the very dry soils and the ongoing drought. And then you also have here across the Northeast some lingering effects of that snowfall here, with some lingering winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories across those areas, and even some red flag warnings down here into Central Florida with some drier soil here as well. Looking at the snowfall across the Northeast here, plenty of areas picked up 6+ inches of snow just in the past 24 hours. In some areas here, it is still snowing across the interior Northeast, so we're going to add to these totals. But generally around the spine of the Appalachians here, just a few inches of snow are expected there that they had last night. So around 6 inches were measured across those areas. And then 6+ inches of snow across much of central and eastern New York State, getting up into Vermont and New Hampshire, some snowfall as well. And this will continue to track off here to the north and east as we head through the next couple of days. Now, looking at the bigger picture of things, that's that snowstorm that's pushing and spiraling across the Northeast. That will continue to push off to the north and east. And then we have a shortwave trough starting to dig into the portions of the southern United States, bringing some severe weather potential to the Texas Panhandle here. I'll get to that here in just a moment. And then kind of another split in the jet stream, another kind of shortwave and storm system moving into the northwestern portions of the United States. That'll arrive in the middle of the country as we head into tomorrow, bringing some nice soaking rainfall for the Midwest, down in the lower Missouri Valley, maybe even some continued severe potential across these areas here as well. So the Storm Prediction Center's Day 1 outlook has a marginal risk for severe weather across mainly the panhandle here of Texas, northern and northwest Texas, and into portions of southwestern Oklahoma here, a level 1 out of 5, that marginal risk, with thunderstorm activity that could be here ahead of that also here up into the lower Missouri Valley around the Ozarks, getting up here into portions of the Central Plains, all the way up here into western Iowa, eastern Nebraska, just some general garden variety storms, but that severe weather will continue here to be shaped down to the south. So the hail risk for those areas here, just a 5% hail risk here for those areas, and the marginal risk, also the wind risk here, also a 5% area. So some isolated hail, some isolated here, downburst wind gust potential, and the tornado risk less than 2 in all areas. So not really looking at a tornado risk here today, but we'll keep an eye on that. And then as we head into tomorrow, this is our Wednesday outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. Has a marginal risk of severe weather from around the Kansas City area, getting down here into North Texas, portions of Wichita Falls, just north and west of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. Then they have also included in a level 2 or slight risk for severe weather here across portions of central into northeastern Oklahoma, southeast Kansas, and portions of far southwestern portions of Missouri, including the Tulsa area, getting down to Oklahoma City, Lawton, Fort Sill, and then getting up here into portions of southeastern Kansas, and getting over towards Joplin, Missouri area here as well. The 2% tornado risk is there as we head into tomorrow, especially across northeastern Oklahoma, southeastern portions of Kansas, far southwestern portions there of Missouri, and then that hail and wind risk zone kind of go along with that marginal and slight risk zones as we head into Wednesday. And why are we seeing this here as we head into today across the panhandle of Texas for the severe weather aspects of things? We got all that warm, moist air coming off the western Gulf of Mexico, a lot of heating across these areas with temperatures rising well into the 70s here and near 80, even down toward the Phoenix area, getting up to around 90 here as we head toward late this afternoon. And then you see here off into the western Gulf, all that Gulf moisture being pulled north, and on the northern plume of that Gulf moisture is where you're going to find that marginal risk for severe weather, with dew points rising into the mid-50s, and that'll be just the threshold for some severe thunderstorms as we head into late this afternoon and early this evening, before the storms kind of dissipate as they move into northern and central Texas here, kind of outrunning the instability as we head into the afternoon and evening. So what are we seeing here in a closer view? You can see temperatures rising well into the 70s across central northwest Texas, and that cold pool aloft here with these storms will kind of drop temperatures down to the 50s late this afternoon, so a lot of cooler weather if you get under some thunderstorms. Then with the northern plume of that dew point temperatures, with all these dew points rising to the 50s, even some 40s up into northwest Texas, going to be enough for some stronger thunderstorms, mainly an isolated to widely scattered threat as we head into late this afternoon and early this evening. But with all those winds coming out of the south-southeast here at the surface here, you can see winds out of the south-southeast around 10 to 15 to even gusts up to 20 plus miles per hour, going to be bringing all that western Gulf moisture up here and intersecting with that heating of the day, and peak heating could see some here, a couple of stronger thunderstorms, maybe a supercell or two across the panhandle of Texas. And that is indicative because of a convective available potential energy, or the instability in the atmosphere. You can see the instability will be rising into the 1,000 to perhaps 2,000 plus range across western and northwest Texas, into the panhandle, and even getting up into portions of far southwestern Oklahoma as well. I have to watch that. And then you have westerlies up in the westerly jet stream here, kind of pushing in with a little bit of low-level jet kind of pushing in with this system as well, a little bit of with that shortwave, and you can see westerlies coming in with wind shear values around 45 plus knots here, intercepting the instability, those boundary layer moisture, and those warming temperatures around peak heating, and that is where here all of those intersect for that severe weather potential here later today. Now, the supercell composite values are not impressive here. I will be the first one to tell you that, but they're not impressive, but I cannot rule out a supercell here as we head into the afternoon, especially if any one storm can develop and kind of dominate across most of northwest Texas here. That is a potential as we head into this afternoon. And if that does occur with some, isolated to widely scattered thunderstorms developing, these will kind of push to the east here in a broken line, if you will, or kind of just some broken cells off to the east. And this will kind of move towards north central and central Texas, but fall apart as they kind of lose the instability and outrun the instability here as we head into the evening hours across southern Oklahoma and far northern Texas toward the Dallas-Fort Worth area. Cannot rule out a couple of thunderstorms knocking on the door of the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex, getting up toward Denton, Texas, getting down towards Wichita Falls, up toward Lawton, and the Oklahoma City area. But I do not expect any of these storms to be strong or severe here as we head into this evening, as they'll kind of outrun all the better dynamics here as they push to the from west to east across the area. And then, like I said, as we head into tomorrow, our Wednesday outlook from the Storm Prediction Center does show that marginal to slight risk zone, with that slight risk zone again into north central and northeastern Oklahoma, southeastern Kansas, and far southwestern portions of Missouri as well. So tomorrow's risk here, you can see temperatures rising into the 80s across portions here, of western Oklahoma, even some 90s in the panhandle of Texas area, and that'll be enough of differential heating to kind of get all this the air parcels to start to rise. And with these dew points here in a narrow swath here in the low to mid 60s, that will be plenty of fuel here for some here strong to severe weather as we head into our Wednesday here tomorrow. And you can see winds are out of the south and south-southwest as we head ahead of this kind of boundary area with the differential heating across here portions of the Central Plains. But behind that, winds will be kind of turning more out of the north and northwest. So it's kind of that differential heating zone where you have warm, moist air ahead of it. And then here's some cooler, drier air somewhat here, relatively speaking, behind the differential heating kind of boundary that's kind of laying out across portions of east central Kansas, getting down into northwestern and central portions of Oklahoma, Oklahoma, and that will continue to slowly drift on to the east as we head into tomorrow afternoon. Now, with all that here, the boundary layer moisture with dew points in the low to mid 60s with temperatures well into the 70s and 80s, there's no surprise that the instability values will be rising well into the 2,000 plus range as we head into, the afternoon and evening hours across most of Oklahoma, getting into southeastern portions of Kansas, a little bit of lower values up into portions of Missouri, but still enough to produce some strong to severe weather with values around 1,000 to 1,500 or so, with localized higher spots than that if we can get more peak afternoon time heating across southwestern portions of Oklahoma, or of Missouri rather. The only drawback for tomorrow's risk here that I'm seeing on the latest model run here on the NAM midday today is that there's going to be a kind of a cap or a lid on the atmosphere, and that is going to kind of prevent some of these thunderstorms from kind of really exploding strong into the atmosphere with these strong updrafts here with air parcels that want to rise. And you can see the surface-based cap, pretty decent values to kind of prohibit thunderstorm activity as we head into late the afternoon. And even up in the mix layer, there's a huge cap on the atmosphere along that differential heating zone, kind of like a steel wall basically across the atmosphere. It doesn't want the air parcels to rise. You get lower topped kind of convection, and you don't really get those really strong updrafts and really tall updrafts to support some big hail, some really strong winds, or even tornado threat. But if this cap can break, and that is a big if right now, because the models are starting to kind of trend towards maybe not. So we'll show you that here in just a moment. But with the shear values coming out of the west and southwest, some decent values overlapping, here's some of that, instability, maybe enough to break that cap as we head into the afternoon here. We'll have to see about that. And if that cap does break, the supercell composite values are pretty decent across central and northeastern portions of Oklahoma, getting into far southeastern Kansas, so cannot rule out maybe an isolated tornado, some large hail to even potentially very large hail, and then you could have some damaging gusts that could be over 60 miles per hour as we head into late tomorrow afternoon. Now here's the model rendition of this here on the NAM. You can see the 12Z NAM showing around midday tomorrow into the afternoon hours. All is quiet, but then it kind of has some bubblers starting to percolate across portions of west central and central Oklahoma, getting to southeastern Kansas, and that to me is indicative of a kind of a cumulus field of clouds across these areas trying to want to rise with those air parcels, but then that cap in the atmosphere and the surface-based cap and then the mix layer really doesn't want that here, those air parcels to rise. So what that does is kind of suppress the thunderstorm activity, and you have lower topped convection or just showers across the area, and that here will could limit the severe here kind of coverage and also the severe potential altogether. So we'll have to wait and see here how tomorrow goes. But if severe weather does develop, it could be pretty intense with that cap here. Usually on days where you have, on severe weather days when you have a cap on the atmosphere and then you get storms to explode, usually you can get some big hailers. So we'll have to watch that across portions of Oklahoma into southeastern portions of Kansas, far southwestern Missouri, and maybe even far northwestern county or two of Arkansas here. I can't talk today, folks, but Arkansas there as we head into late in the afternoon, early in the evening before the storms kind of push off. And then the Storm Prediction Center has a day 3 categorical outlook, a marginal risk for severe weather across mainly the same areas, maybe just farther to the north and west across east central and central Kansas, southeastern Nebraska, far southwestern Iowa, northwest portions here of Missouri, tailing its way back down here into northwestern Oklahoma as well, maybe a little sliver of the Texas Panhandle. This does include Kansas City, getting up just south of Omaha, Topeka, Wichita, those areas, Salina, Kansas, getting back down toward El Reno, Oklahoma, and portions to the west here as we head into our Thursday. And looking at the big picture once again, you can see as we head towards the Friday time period that trough will continue to move down here across the California coast, bringing some beneficial rains across northern and central portions of California where they have a major drought ongoing here. So that is some welcome news as we head towards the Friday time period. But that trough will continue to deepen as we head towards the end of the week here. And this will be the next player for some severe weather potential across the middle of the country as we head towards late this week week, into this weekend. And then this will kind of kick off and take a little bit of a negative tilt as we head into Friday night and or Saturday. And this could spell to the east of that a lot of warm, moist air being drawn up from the western Gulf and the clashes of the air masses with the cooler trough kind of weather across the troughing areas, and then that ridge off to the east, the clash of that air mass here, or the battle zone, if you will kind of be there across the center of the country as we head into our Friday. And with temperatures rising well into the 80s, even some 90s, all the way up here into portions of Nebraska, Kansas, even some 80s and 90s down into Oklahoma, Texas, a lot of like warm, moist air, and you can see where that warm front will be extending on Friday here from portions of southern and central South Dakota through portions of central Iowa, right over the Des Moines area, getting down towards the I-80 corridor here in Illinois, just south of Chicago, down toward the Peoria area, and kind of tailing off into Indiana, where that warm front will be on Friday evening. And then you can see exactly where that warm front is here. To the north of there, you could have dew points in the 40s, to the south 50s, and well into the 60s for dew points. And where you get that to meet with that very impressive dry line developing here in cold front across portions here of the Central Plains and near that triple point, you can definitely see some severe weather potential as we head here into Friday afternoon. And like I said, with all that moisture being pulled up, we have winds straight out of the south here across much of the central and southern plains and into the upper Midwest region here, just south of that warm front. And it's going to bring all that warm, moist air with dew points well into the 60s, temperatures well into the 80s to even 90s here up into portions of Nebraska, Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas as well. And then you got that surface-based CAPE or instability here, the convective available potential energy for these thunderstorms and all those air parcels to want to rise. And the highest values across portions of western Iowa, getting into eastern and central portions here in Nebraska, and kind of tailing its way south and westward toward portions of Kansas, western Oklahoma panhandle there, and down into the Texas panhandle. Got to watch some severe weather potential as well. Even though the Storm Prediction Center does not include Oklahoma and the Texas panhandle here for some severe weather Friday, still want to be watching out here for some stronger storm activity, just due to the fact that the CAPE will be around 2,000 plus in those areas, but even some CAPE up here into portions, like I said, of western Iowa, southeastern Nebraska, north central and northeastern portions there of Kansas, and in far northwestern Missouri, pushing 3,000 plus, so a lot of instability across those areas. And then the lapse rates, the temperature cooling aloft here as you go up in the atmosphere from the surface all the way up to the upper levels, going to be around, into western Iowa and portions of far eastern Nebraska, and getting down into northwestern Missouri, north central and eastern portions of Kansas, around 7 to 7.5 to even up to 8 degrees Celsius per kilometer. The temperatures will be cooling aloft, so that will create some thunderstorm activities to explode as we head into late Friday afternoon. Even some lapse rates pretty decent, up to around 8 degrees Celsius per kilometer down into portions here of the Texas Panhandle and Oklahoma Panhandle. So if we can get any storms down there, some pretty tall updrafts can be expected as well. Now, another limiting factor, once again on Friday, along that warm front especially here, is going to be the surface-based cap or lid on the atmosphere once again, and so we'll have to watch that. But if we can have storms go, especially along that warm front into portions of western Iowa, eastern Nebraska, northeast Kansas, where that Storm Prediction Center's Day 4 slight risk or 15% zone of severe weather is, we could have some tornadoes here. So we'll have to watch that with some supercellular structures here developing into the afternoon with peak heating. And then kind of along that dry line, a little bit of some, a little bit of a cap along that with the here kind of differential heating, but that is here indicative of the drier air pushing in and kind of suppressing the thunderstorm activity here, kind of overlapping that dry line. So we'll have to see how that works out. You can definitely see here the shear values. This kind of take on a negative tilt here on Friday afternoon, and the shear values will start to catch up to it here as we head into Friday evening and even into early Saturday, and that will promote the severe weather across here the portions of the Central Plains, getting into here the lee side of the Rockies, getting back down here into the Southern Plains as we head to Friday night. The supercell composite already a few days out and seeing some pretty high values, especially even up into portions here along that warm front into portions of South Dakota, western Iowa, getting down into east central Nebraska, central and western Kansas, even some supercell potential here down into the Texas Panhandle and West Texas as well. So we'll have to watch that. And like I said, this is the Day 4 outlook here from the Storm Prediction Center. A 15% or equivalent to a slight risk of severe weather can be expected from South Dakota, southeastern South Dakota, Dakota, through much of central and eastern portions of Nebraska, and western and central portions here of Kansas. And I do expect here this to be expanding down farther here to the south into the Oklahoma Panhandle, western Oklahoma, and maybe even down into the Texas Panhandle here in the updates here coming up in the next few days here from the Storm Prediction Center. So we'll see how that works out. Maybe even here an upgrade to an enhanced risk potential as well, especially with what I'm seeing now across here areas of Nebraska, maybe far western Iowa, South Dakota, and getting into Kansas here. We'll see how that works out. Well, this will continue with the vorticity signature. You can see a very strong cyclogenesis of a low-pressure system across the northern plains will continue, and you can see a big ridge continuing across here the eastern two-thirds of the country with warming temperatures, a high-pressure system sitting down here in the far southeastern United States, and then with that trough moving in with the cooler air, kind of a clash of the air mass will continue into Saturday, and more severe weather will be possible as we head into Saturday as this trough continues to push on to the east, kind of broaden some a little bit here on Saturday, but still a lot of wind shear in the atmosphere and a lot of instability here with temperatures warming well into the 70s and 80s, especially as you get into Illinois, into portions here of Missouri, down into portions of Oklahoma, Kansas, once again, Iowa. We could have 70s all the way up here into central portions here of Minnesota, getting into southeastern South Dakota, central Wisconsin around Green Bay, the Wisconsin Dells, La Crosse, Wisconsin, Dubuque, Iowa, Des Moines, Iowa, 70s are expected there, maybe 80 degrees in Chicago, some low to mid 80s across central Illinois, getting down to the Ozarks here, so a lot of warm air across this area, coupled with low to mid 60 dew points, and that will promote here the instability as we head into our Saturday, with winds coming ahead of the storm system, ahead of the dry line and the cold front, with winds out of the south and south-southwest, and that'll pump in all that western Gulf moisture as we head to Saturday afternoon. And along that trailing cold front here from that strong low pressure system sitting up into portions here of the southern Canadian provinces and far northern plains, you can see here an arcing band of a broken line of storms as we head into western and central Iowa, kind of the remnants of the Friday storms. And then depending on here the heating in the afternoon, we could have some very strong, robust kind of squall line develop as we head from central Wisconsin all the way down through east central Iowa, northwestern Missouri, and getting down to the southern plains, even down into Texas here as we head into Saturday night with a very strong low-level jet, and that will continue to push off very slowly to the east and kind of move stationary. We're going to have kind of a heavy rain setup across portions here of Missouri, Illinois, and getting back down here into the southern plains, into Kansas and northeastern Oklahoma, maybe northwestern portions of Arkansas, and that will continue to kind of rain over the same areas, training over and over again through Monday before that moves out. Now, I wanted to backtrack a little bit to show you that rainfall potential here across northern and central California, southwestern Oregon here state there, with the Weather Prediction Center putting out a Day 2 excessive rainfall outlook, a marginal risk for flash flooding across those zones. But then in general, the next 7 days, all the way through here as we head into next Tuesday, we could see here several inches of rain possible across especially the Ozarks and lower Missouri Valley, getting up into the mid-Mississippi Valley and down into the southern plains. We could have an additional 1 to 2 to even locally 3 to 4 plus inches of rain, especially if we get some heavier thunderstorms to train over the same areas. And then with the snowfall on the backside potential here, a couple of inches of snow there. And then you can see back into northern and central California, several inches of rain, 2 to 4 plus inches are possible, if not likely, across these areas, which is welcome news here. I am glad they're getting some rain. Unfortunately, not much for the south central portions of California or the Four Corners region, but at least they're getting some rain here in some areas that do need it across central and northern California here as we head through the weekend into the weekend. And that is, like I said, some good news as portions of northern and central California, getting down to south central California in the extreme and even severe drought zone. So that is some welcome news. This will put a little bit of a dent in the drought, the long-term drought, but it will not erase it completely. But it will start to relieve some of the drought concerns across those areas, which is some welcome news. And even down into Texas, the storms today and all the way through the week will start to relieve a little bit of the extreme and exceptional and severe drought down into portions of the Panhandle of Texas, getting into Oklahoma here as well. So that'll be some welcome news across the Texas region as well. And looking at the 6 to 10 day temperature outlook from the Climate Prediction Center, with that trough continuing across the northern and central plains, cooler than normal temperatures are expected, with another ridge starting to develop across the western half of the country as we head toward late April, and then that ridge that will continue to push off to the east here in the east coast here toward the end of the month. And then the heavy rain setup across the lower Missouri Valley, the Ozarks. Above average precipitation is expected there, with below average precipitation across the desert Southwest, with that ridge being reestablished across those areas. And then with that trough becoming more established here across the eastern half of the country as we head towards the opening stages here of May, this goes all the way through Monday, May 2nd, very likely below normal temperatures here across the Great Lakes, getting down to the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, all the way down here to the deep south as we head into portions of late April and early day or so of May, with that very big ridge starting to become well established across the Four Corners into the desert Southwest, maybe portions of the western plains around the Rockies, and that'll be established as we head towards early May. And with continued dry conditions underneath that ridge and that trough continue to push to the east here with the slightly above average precipitation in the east coast, and then here underneath that ridge, like I said, that drier weather will continue, and that will kind of extend into the Great Lakes and Midwest here as well through the opening day or two here of May. So I do appreciate you guys watching my video. Do be sure to like the video, give me a thumbs up below, and to also, if you have any questions, I'll be here to answer them, or any comments here down below. And do remember to subscribe to my channel. I do appreciate it. Here I'm trying to get to 100 or more subscribers on my channel, so I do appreciate that here. So remember to click that subscribe button, and I'll be here for the next one with more long-range weather forecasts here coming up later this week, and focusing on the severe weather threat as well. So thank you, and have a great Tuesday, everybody.